I used to think I had my life figured out. My name is Mark, and I have been married to Emma for 7 years. We met in college, fell madly in love, and built what I thought was a rock-solid marriage. We have 2 boys, Alex and Ben, who are staying with my parents for the Christmas break in Woodhaven, a small, peaceful town about 40 miles from where we live in Maple Hill. They are growing up fast, and my parents, being the doting grandparents they are, wanted more time with them before Alex starts school next year. Emma and I agreed it would give us some quiet time to focus on each other. Or so I thought. Emma and I both work as engineers, though at different firms. Our offices are close enough that we often met for lunch during the workday. Evenings were predictable. We would come home together, cook dinner, and spend time as a family. But in the last few months, things had changed. Emma started going out for lunches without telling me where or with whom. She stayed late at work more often than not, claiming she was overwhelmed with deadlines. I would be lying if I said I did not notice. I did not want to pry, though. I trusted her, or maybe I wanted to believe I could trust her. So, when she mentioned a company holiday party one Friday night, I tried to keep my doubts to myself. "It is employees only," Emma said casually over dinner. "I am going with my friend Julia. We will crash at her place afterward, and I will come home by lunchtime tomorrow." I do not know what pushed me to ask, but I did. "Finally making it official with your boyfriend? Huh?" Her fork paused midair. "What are you even talking about, Mark?" "I never said a name, Emma," I said, leaning back. "You are the one who just gave me one." The blood drained from her face. "It is not what you think," she said. I have been working closely with Sam, but that is it. Nothing is going on." Sam, her new boss. I had heard about him in passing. A charming guy in his early 40s who seemed to have a knack for drawing attention, especially from the women in the office. "Emma, people talk. Do not pretend they don't. Your little lunch dates and late nights have not gone unnoticed. And now you are telling me I am not allowed to come to this employees only party when I know damn well spouses are invited." Her face twisted with frustration. "I just wanted one night to unwind, away from you constantly judging me." I could feel my temper rising, but I forced myself to stay calm. "Fine, go unwind. But do not expect me to sit around pretending everything is fine." I stood, leaving my half-finished dinner on the table, and walked out of the room. I could hear Emma cleaning up behind me, muttering under her breath. That night, I moved my things into the spare bedroom. I did not want to share a bed with someone who looked me in the eye and lied. But Emma was not the only one with a plan. If she thought she could pull this off without consequences, she was dead wrong. To be continued. The next morning, Emma acted like nothing had happened. She cleaned up the kitchen, chatted with a friend on the phone, and even smiled at me when I came out of the spare room. It was like the argument the night before had been erased from her memory. But I remembered every word, and I had no intention of letting it slide. I made myself coffee, ignoring the small talk she tried to make, and headed out. I needed space to think, but I also had errands to run, important errands. First stop, a lawyer's office. The lawyer, Linda, was direct. She had seen cases like mine before, and I appreciated that she did not sugarcoat anything. "Mark, divorce is messy. Nobody wins, and it is going to be hard on your kids. Are you sure this is the route you want to take?" "I am sure," I said, feeling a mix of anger and sadness swelling in my chest. I do not trust her anymore, and if there is even a chance she's cheating on me, I want to protect my boys from whatever fallout might come. She nodded. "All right, I will prepare the paperwork for you. You will need to provide some evidence if you're going to claim infidelity. Do you have anything concrete?" "Not yet," I admitted, "but give me until Friday. That is when her company party is, and I am willing to bet everything I've got that Sam will be there." Linda handed me a document packet and instructions for filing after the holidays. I thanked her and left with my head spinning. The rest of my day was spent preparing. I made sure my parents were ready to keep Alex and Ben through the new year. I explained to them that Emma and I were going through a rough patch and needed some time apart. My father patted my shoulder, offering quiet reassurance, while my mother pressed me with questions about Emma. She has been distant lately, I told her, trying to keep my voice steady. I am not sure where her priorities are anymore. Mark, do not let this fester, my mother warned. If you do not confront her, it will eat you alive. I am handling it, Mom, I said, glancing out the window at the boys playing in the snow. By Friday, I was ready. Emma had spent the week avoiding any real conversation, focusing instead on planning her outfit for the party. That morning, she barely acknowledged me as she grabbed her bag and left for work. The moment she was out the door, I got to work. I packed up my things from the house, clothes, personal items, even the television from the living room, and loaded them into my truck. I left a handwritten note on the kitchen table, next to my wedding ring and a copy of the divorce papers. The note read, Emma, this is my final goodbye. By the time you read this, I will be gone. I cannot keep pretending that what we had still exists. I know about you and Sam, and I know you have chosen him over our family. I will not stand in your way, but I will not let you drag me down with you either. The boys are staying with my parents. I trust you will respect their holiday and not disturb them. You can contact me through my lawyer if you have any questions. Mark. I stood in the empty kitchen for a moment, letting the silence sink in. Then I grabbed my truck keys and left, knowing there was no turning back. As I drove toward my parents' house, the anger that had fueled me all week began to morph into something heavier: grief. I had loved Emma once more than anything, but love was not enough when trust was gone. When I arrived, my boys ran out to greet me, their laughter piercing through the cold air. My father helped me unload, while my mother hovered nearby, clearly sensing something was wrong. She will find this hard to ignore, I said, handing her the note I had left. She made her bed, Mark, my mother said firmly. Now she has to lie in it. As night fell, I kept expecting a call from Emma. Instead, I got one from Julia, her friend. Mark, what the hell is going on? Julia's voice was sharp. Emma is in tears. She found your note and does not know what to do. I sighed, gripping the phone tighter. She knows exactly what to do. She just does not like the consequences. She says nothing is going on with Sam. Stop defending her, Julia. I interrupted. I am done being lied to. Julia was silent for a moment. If you are sure this is what you want, then I hope you find peace, Mark. But I am telling you, you might regret burning this bridge. After hanging up, I stared at the phone in my hand. Was Julia right? Had I gone too far? Or had Emma finally pushed me to a point of no return? To be continued. The weekend was supposed to be peaceful, but peace was the last thing I felt. I stayed up late, replaying every moment of the past few months, wondering if I had missed some sign or clue. The boys were asleep upstairs, and my parents had already turned in for the night. The house was quiet except for the faint hum of the heater, but my mind was racing. Around 11 p.m., my phone buzzed. I expected it to be Julia again, maybe even Emma. Instead, it was a text from a number I did not recognize. Mark, we need to talk. It is about Emma and Sam. I stared at the screen, my stomach tightening. Whoever it was sent another message before I could respond. This is Rachel, Sam's wife. I think we can help each other. I hesitated, then called the number. A woman answered immediately, her voice calm but laced with frustration. Mark, I am sorry to contact you like this, but I found your number through someone at Emma's office, Rachel began. I know what is going on, and I thought you deserved to know the full story. What story? I asked, my voice low. Sam has been pulling this act for years, Rachel said bitterly. He gets close to women at work, pretends to be their friend, and then things escalate. He did it before with another coworker, and it nearly ended our marriage. Now he is doing it with your wife. My hand clenched into a fist. So you are saying something is going on between them? Yes and no, she admitted. He plays mind games, makes them feel special, gets them emotionally hooked before he takes things further. I cannot say for sure how far he has gone with Emma, but I know the signs. He has been staying late at work, hiding texts, acting distant. Sound familiar? I leaned against the kitchen counter, my head pounding. What are you planning to do about it? I am filing for divorce, Rachel said bluntly. I have had enough. But I thought you might want to know before it blindsides you. Maybe it is not too late for you and Emma to work things out, if you still care about her. I thanked her and hung up, feeling more conflicted than ever. Rachel's words had shaken me. Was Emma just a pawn in Sam's twisted game? Had I been too quick to assume the worst about her? The next morning, I found my mother in the kitchen, making pancakes for the boys. She looked up as I entered, raising an eyebrow at the dark circles under my eyes. You look like you did not sleep, she said. What is going on? I filled her in on Rachel's call, watching her expression shift from concern to disbelief. So Emma might not have crossed the line, but she let this Sam guy manipulate her, my mother said, shaking her head. What a mess. What are you going to do? I do not know, I admitted. Part of me wants to confront Emma and demand the truth, but the other part just wants to move on. I cannot keep living in limbo. By the time Monday rolled around, I was still undecided. I dropped the boys off at school and headed back to Maple Hill to grab more of my things. The house was eerily quiet when I arrived. Emma's car was gone, and the curtains were drawn. I stepped inside and immediately noticed that something was off. The kitchen table, where I had left my note, was cleared. The papers, my ring, everything gone. I heard footsteps behind me and turned to see Emma standing in the doorway. Her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. She was holding my note in one hand and the divorce papers in the other. Mark, she said softly. We need to talk. I folded my arms, keeping my tone cold. Talk about what, Emma? You made your choices. No, Mark, you do not understand, she said, her voice trembling. I did not sleep with Sam. I never wanted any of this to happen. I made a mistake, but it is not what you think. I laughed bitterly. Not what I think. Do you even hear yourself? You lied to me, Emma, over and over again. You shut me out, pushed me away, and now you expect me to believe it was all just a misunderstanding. She took a step closer, her hands shaking. I swear to you, Mark, I never crossed that line. Yes, I let him get too close. Yes, I was stupid and I ignored your feelings. But I love you. I always have. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wanted to believe her, but how could I? Trust was not something you could rebuild overnight. I looked her in the eye, searching for any sign of deceit. You have one chance, Emma. Tell me everything. Every lunch, every late night, every lie. If you hold anything back, we are done. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I will tell you everything, Mark. Just please, do not give up on us. To be continued. Emma sat down at the kitchen table, clutching the divorce papers like they were a life raft. I stayed standing, arms crossed, trying to keep my anger in check. Start talking, I said. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling. It all started when Sam became my manager. He was charming, confident, and I do not know, he made me feel noticed. I did not mean for anything to happen, but he kept finding reasons to talk to me, to spend time with me. At first, it was just work-related, but then he started making it personal. Personal how? I demanded. He would compliment me, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. He would say things like, you deserve better, or you are too good for the life you are settling for. It was stupid, I know, but I let it get to me. I started thinking maybe he was right. Did you ever tell him to stop? She shook her head, her eyes filling with tears. I did not know how, and then I started liking the attention. It felt good to be admired, to be wanted. But it never went beyond words, Mark. I swear to you I never slept with him. I never even kissed him. Do you think that makes it better? I shot back. You were emotionally cheating on me, Emma. You shut me out so you could bask in his compliments. Do you even realize how humiliating that is? She flinched but did not look away. I know I messed up, but I ended it, Mark. I told him we could not even be friends anymore. That was weeks ago. I let out a bitter laugh. And I am supposed to just take your word for it? Why should I believe anything you say? She reached into her purse and pulled out her phone, scrolling through her messages. "Here," she said, handing it to me. "Read the last thing I sent him." I took the phone, my skepticism outweighing my curiosity. The text was from 3 weeks ago. "Sam, this has to stop. I made a mistake letting it go this far. I love my husband, and I am not willing to risk my marriage for this. Please respect my boundaries and do not contact me again." Below that was Sam's reply. "You are making a mistake, Emma. Your husband does not appreciate you the way I do." I stared at the screen, my mind racing. It was exactly the kind of manipulative nonsense Rachel had warned me about. Still, a single text did not erase months of lies and secrecy. "I do not know, Emma," I said, handing her the phone. "I want to believe you, but I cannot just pretend this never happened." "I am not asking you to pretend," she said quickly. "I am asking for a chance to prove myself, to show you I can be better. Please, Mark, do not throw away everything we have built." I hesitated, my heart and mind waging a silent war. Part of me wanted to walk out the door and never look back. The other part, the part that still loved her, wanted to believe there was a way forward. "Fine," I said finally. "One chance, Emma. But if I see even a hint of Sam, or anyone like him, in your life again, we are done. No arguments, no second chances." She nodded, wiping her tears. "You will not regret this, Mark. I promise." But promises were easy to make. Keeping them was a different story. The next few weeks were tense, to say the least. Emma went out of her way to earn back my trust. She deleted Sam's number, blocked him on social media, and started coming home on time every day. She even asked if I wanted to join her for lunch during the workweek, a gesture that felt as much like a peace offering as it did an apology. I appreciated the effort, but I was not ready to let my guard down. I stayed in the spare room, keeping my distance while I tried to sort through my feelings. Trusting her again felt like trying to rebuild a house that had burned to the ground. Then, one night, everything changed. It was late, and I was in bed scrolling through my phone when Emma knocked on the door. "Mark," she said softly. "What is it?" "I need to show you something," she said, stepping inside with her laptop. She opened it and handed it to me, her face pale. "It is about Sam." On the screen was an email from Rachel, Sam's wife. Attached were screenshots of texts, emails, and even photos Sam had sent to other women, Emma included. "He is being investigated by HR," Emma said, her voice shaking. "Rachel shared this with me because she thought I should know. I had no idea he was doing this to so many people." I scrolled through the evidence, my anger reigniting. Sam had been preying on women at work for years, and Emma had been just one of his targets. Seeing it laid out in black and white made it all the more infuriating. "Are you okay?" I asked, surprising even myself with the question. "I do not know," she admitted. "I feel so stupid, but I am also relieved. Maybe now he will finally face the consequences." I closed the laptop and looked at her. For the first time in weeks, I saw the woman I had fallen in love with, the one who had made mistakes but was trying to make things right. "I am not saying everything is fixed," I told her, "but maybe this is a step in the right direction." She nodded, her eyes filled with hope. "One step at a time, Mark. That is all I am asking for." To be continued. I thought finding out about the HR investigation would bring me some sense of closure. But instead, it made everything messier. Sam had been a predator, sure, but Emma had let herself get caught in his web. That was still a hard pill to swallow. The following weekend, Emma suggested we visit my parents and the boys. It felt like her way of showing me she was serious about rebuilding our family, but I was not ready to let my guard down yet. Still, for the boys' sake, I agreed. When we arrived at my parents' house, Alex and Ben ran out to greet us, their laughter filling the crisp winter air. Seeing them so happy, so untouched by the chaos between their parents, was both a relief and a reminder of what was at stake. My mother gave Emma a polite but strained smile. She had clearly not forgiven her yet, but she was willing to tolerate her for the boys' sake. My father, on the other hand, kept his distance, barely acknowledging Emma's presence. The tension followed us inside, lingering in every room like a ghost. My mother tried to keep the mood light, asking about the boys' activities and sharing funny stories about their antics. But when dinner was over, and the kids were off playing, my father pulled me aside. "Mark," he said in a low voice, "are you sure about this? Letting her back in?" "I am not sure about anything right now, Dad," I admitted. "But I am giving her a chance to make things right. For the boys, if nothing else." He nodded, though his expression remained skeptical. "Just do not lose yourself in the process, son. Sometimes the hardest thing to rebuild is your own peace of mind." Later that night, after the kids were asleep, Emma and I sat alone in the living room. The glow of the Christmas tree lights softened the tension between us, but it was still there, unspoken. "I know your parents are angry with me," Emma said quietly, "and they have every right to be. But I am not giving up, Mark. Not on us." I leaned back on the couch, staring at the tree. "I do not want to talk about what my parents think. This is about you and me, Emma. And right now, I do not know if I can trust you again." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I understand, but I will keep fighting for you. For us. I just hope you will let me." The next few weeks passed in a blur of cautious attempts at normalcy. Emma threw herself into repairing our relationship, going out of her way to show me she was committed to making things right. She became more involved in the boys' lives, taking them to their activities and helping with homework. She even started joining me at the gym, something we had not done together in years. For my part, I tried to meet her halfway. I moved back into our bedroom, though it still felt more like sharing space than true intimacy. We had long conversations about our future, about what went wrong, and about how to rebuild what we had lost. But then, just as it felt like we were finding some footing, Sam resurfaced. It was a Friday evening when Emma got the call. She was in the kitchen, and I was in the living room when I heard her voice tense up. "What do you want, Sam?" she said sharply. I stood up, my pulse quickening. She turned to look at me, her face pale, and put the phone on speaker. "You do not get to ignore me, Emma," Sam's voice crackled through the speaker. "You think you can just block me and everything goes away? You owe me." "Owe you?" Emma said, her voice trembling. "I do not owe you anything. Stay out of my life." "You led me on," he snarled. "You let me think there was something real between us. And now you just want to pretend I never existed." I stepped forward, grabbing the phone. "Listen to me, you slimy piece of trash," I growled. "If you ever contact my wife again, I will make sure you regret it. Do you understand?" There was silence on the other end before the line went dead. Emma stared at me, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and relief. "Mark, I had no idea he would do something like this. Are you still protecting him?" I snapped. "After everything he has done?" "No," she said quickly. "I am not protecting him. I just did not think he would stoop this low." "That is the problem, Emma," I said, my voice cold. "You let him into our lives. You gave him the power to mess with us. And now we are stuck cleaning up the mess." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I am so sorry, Mark. I will do whatever it takes to fix this." I wanted to believe her, but the damage had been done, and trust was a fragile thing. In the end, it was not just Emma who had to rebuild. It was both of us. Sam's call was a wake-up call, a reminder of how far we had let things spiral. We both started therapy separately at first, then together. Slowly, painfully, we began to piece things back together. By the time spring rolled around, things were not perfect, but they were better. The boys were happy, Emma was trying, and I was starting to feel like myself again. As for Sam, he was fired after Rachel's evidence was brought to HR. Last I heard, his wife had left him and moved to another town with their kids. Emma and I still had a long way to go, but for the first time in months, I felt like we were on the right path. Because sometimes the hardest thing to do is not to let go, but to hold on.